Another episode of Do What You Love with Jeff Kirkshin, and I want to thank everybody for joining us, whether you're on Spotify, you're on iTunes, whether you're watching on YouTube or on one of the Beasley Media group sites. Thank you so much. I'm excited because our next guest is a guy who, he's got his footprint all over, not only Las Vegas, but all over events that you've probably seen, enjoyed. He is the entertainment man, in my opinion, and I'll be honest, I look up to this guy. You know, he does a lot of the things that I feel like an entertainer and a host is at their tops to do. Golden Knights, you're talking some very exciting news that I can't wait to get to that I'll let Mark share in a minute. And also, you're talking so many fights, so many charity events, and his very own charity event. Mark Shunock is on with Do What You Love right now. Mark, good morning.
Hey, man. Thanks for having me on. This is an honor.
Thank you for joining the podcast. We've had you on 1027 Coyote Country, and that's all good and fun, and we actually had you in studio, which is very rare, COVID times. You were our only in-studio guest and our last in-studio guest, unfortunately, because of the way things are shutting back down slowly, but we're still up. We're still doing well. But, Mark, the reason why I wanted to have you on today is because you epitomize doing what you love. I mean, you are a prime example of a guy who probably is the busiest guy in Las Vegas. I don't think I've met somebody like you in the sense of every time I see your name on a marquee, every time I see a new event coming up, I'm not surprised to see that Mark Shunock's involved in some sort of way. How do you keep your head on straight with hosting all of these events in town?
Great team, an awesome support team, really. Like you said, I got my hand in a lot of pots, and I am doing what I love. So, thank you for having me on your show. And kid in a candy store when it comes to everything that I've sort of got my hand in. I'm blessed in the sense that the stuff that I call work is something that I'm passionate about. And I think anytime you have a gig or a job that you're passionate about or you truly care about it, it doesn't become work. It just becomes something that you do. And so I'm fortunate that the things that I get to do, I actually love, and I don't really consider them work, even though it does require a lot of work and a lot of time. I truly love what I do, and just really lucky, really, truly lucky.
Well, I feel the same way. I mean, even with starting this podcast, I'm a one-man show. I always say when I post podcast episodes, I'm like, we were so excited to have Mark Shunock on the show. It's like, no, like, at the end of the day, I'm not trying to be pretentious when I say this, but if you want to get something done, and we have so many great staffers at the radio station, I decided to do this project to kind of support the radio station and help with some extra content on the side. But it really is a one-man band over here, and I enjoy it because I'm doing what I love, getting to talk to interesting, fascinating people like yourself. People might recognize you from Golden Knights games, being at the Fortress at T-Mobile Arena, pumping up the crowd. But I think that something that has really drawn me to appreciate all that you do is what you do for local charities. Listen, I'm not here to belittle what you and I both do in hosting events in large crowds. It's very difficult, it's time-consuming, and it's exhausting. But I think that when you do something for, let's just say, an organization like the Knights, who are incredible, versus doing something for nonprofit work, there's just so much more of a depth of emotion to that. Tell everybody on the podcast about Monday's Dark and how much money you have raised for nonprofits in Las Vegas. It's crazy.
Yeah, so Monday's Dark, like you said, it's our baby, it's our passion project. We have an incredible team behind the organization. It started about 8 years ago. Actually, 8 years ago this December will be our anniversary. I was performing in Rock of Ages, and as you know, we get invited to all of these events. And as a performer in the show, I would literally show up for 20 minutes in costume, take a picture on the carpet, and leave. And I thought there's got to be a better way to support these organizations than just showing up and making an appearance. And so my wife and I came up with this idea where on Monday night we would throw a party and essentially raise $10,000 in 90 minutes for that organization. We charge $20. It's a 90-minute variety show. We pick a different local charity every other week. And we've thrown about 140 parties since we've started. Each charity gets $10,000. We never repeat a local charity. It's always somebody different. You never know who's going to show up. And it's something that we're really proud of. And we put a lot of energy and effort into it. As you know, putting on events is not easy, but this is a goofy party. And we have a lot of fun putting them on. And at the end of that 90 minutes, we walk away going, hey, another 10 grand for another local charity.
That's so incredible. I think the charity tie-in is amazing. Your connections in town, because Las Vegas is the entertainment capital of the world, and I do not want to be facetious when I say that. I moved out here and immediately felt a change. I was a performer growing up, and I did theater, and if you had asked 10-year-old Jeff Kirkshin, I would have told you I wanted to be on Broadway. That's what I wanted to
Hey,
do.
it was a weird path for me as well. I grew up in Canada, and I wanted to raise the Stanley Cup, just like every other, kid in Canada. I played hockey until I was about 19, 20 years old, and then moved to New York. And I've just been lucky. As I said earlier on in the show, I've been in the right place at the right time and work hard and stay the course. And things worked out, and I'm just blessed to call Vegas home now. And Monday's Dark really is the backbone of everything we do. I've got my hand in a lot of pots out here, but Monday's Dark is the backbone of everything that I do, and I'm just grateful to call Vegas home.
So you're a performer. You're a hockey player. Is there anything you can't do? Because it's not really fair as a theater kid that you're also this athlete and all this stuff. I was very much the theater kid, class president type, nerdy kind of angle on high school. But you like are very well rounded, triple threat in every sense of
No,
the term.
no, because if I was a good athlete, I'd probably still be playing. No, I was a third string goalie in the Canadian Hockey League. Um, Played for a team that doesn't even exist anymore, the Belleville Bulls, which is in the Canadian Hockey League right outside Toronto, and had a blast, man. I was living that slap shot life where I'd be on the bus going who knows where every weekend, and sent down to the minors, and I just played as long as I could, and then I just had to figure out something else. And don't get me wrong, my career in entertainment has been a roller coaster, as you know, man. Like, you could go a year without a gig, and then you work every day the following year. So it's been a trip, and one that I'm truly grateful for. It never ends. I'm constantly learning and growing and trying to find new things to work on and do. And it's been a ride. And to come full circle, to leave hockey and then work entirely just in entertainment, now to be working full time in sports, it's been a cool ride.
I love the stories of actors and entertainers. I've got a lot of friends who are living that life right now, who are scraping it, now that Broadway is back and trying to be a performer, trying to be an actor or actress, trying to figure it out. What is your Joey Tribbiani poster on the wall of him having a disease kind of gig you got, the funniest audition you got, gig you got, something that you want to share with the Do What You Love audience where you're like, hey, it's a gig, but I can't believe I'm doing this.
Yeah, I moved to New York when I was 20 years old, and Viacom was a big company at the time. MTV was big, and VH1 started, and all these cable networks really started popping up when I first started. It was before cable, really. It was just network television and movies, and then cable really started coming along, and Nick at Night was one of the big ones that was sort of jumping off when I first started. And I remember I got an audition where they needed somebody who could roller skate. And I'm not a roller skater by any means, but I'm like, I can ice skate. So let me go get some roller skates. And so I bought some roller skates and went to this audition, not really knowing anything about it. And essentially I booked the job, and then they told me I was going to be dressed up pretty much as a fry guy from McDonald's days. So you didn't even see my face. I'm a short dude, so I'm not very tall. They put me in this like French fry scriggly wiggly costume, and I basically wheeled around. And it was for all of the commercial break segments for Nick at Night, where it was like, after these messages we'll be right back kind of thing, and this little fry creature would skate across the screen. And that was my first job in New York, and I'm like, what am I doing? Like, what is happening right now? And I was like,
That
well, thank God I could skate, because I wouldn't have had this $800 payday without it.
that is incredible. And I feel like somebody listening right now is going to be like, oh my gosh, I totally remember the Fry Guy.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
is
literally this furry creature for Nick at Night for all their commercial breaks, and I was like, what am I doing?
Well, I think you did it. I grew up and I did the kind of child acting route in Washington D.C. A lot of theater. I had a chance to perform at the Kennedy Center, and I did some small little things here and there. But one of my funniest, my agent and my mom, right? My agent was like my mom's friend, and they always said, if they ask you a question, just say yes, and we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And I think you had that attitude, although I did audition for a show at the Shakespeare Theater in downtown Washington, D.C., and they asked me, can you play the trombone? And I said, yeah, I can play the trombone.
No, you can't fake that.
You can't fake that. I walked out and I said, Mom, we got to learn the trombone if I get a callback. Ended up not getting a callback for that. But I think that lesson proves, like, you were like, okay, I'm an ice skater. This translates a little bit. I was a piano player, am a piano player, not very much good at the woodwind section. The orchestra was not my thing at all. So I recommend to anybody listening, say yes to a certain extent in which you think it's possible.
Yeah. Let's just say no to drugs. Just say no to drugs.
Right? Where I'm with Mark Shunock, you know him, he's the host with the most. I mean, honestly, Mark, I look up to you. When I came to Vegas and I saw you doing your thing at my first Golden Knights game, I said, that's the kind of guy that I want to be in this city. I want to be this involved. I want to be involved in the community in a way where people associate you with a great evening like a Golden Knights game. You've seen Stanley Cup games at T-Mobile Arena. You've seen multiple playoff runs. For you, is there one game that's most memorable at T-Mobile Arena?
I think it's the opening night for season 1. I think to this day that'll be something that sticks with everybody who was there and really anybody who was living in Vegas at the time. What the team was able to do and help heal the city after the shooting, I think is something that will be associated with the Vegas Golden Knights forever. The team at the time, the entertainment team with the Vegas Golden Knights at the time had a tough job. We were planning to celebrate a brand new franchise and launch this team. And then, as we know, the shooting happened and we had to pivot and figure out how we were going to open the first season ever on such a sour note. Like, there's just no other way to explain it. It was the darkest event time in the history of Las Vegas, in the country, really. I think it's the largest shooting in the history of the United States, and it happened in Las Vegas. And a week later, we had to launch an NHL franchise. So I think being a part of that game and living through that moment with 18,000 people in the building, and then having the players take the ice with first responders and medical professionals and basically the heroes, is something that I'll never forget. And then obviously Derek Englund speaking to the crowd and coining "We Are Vegas Strong" is something really that I don't think I'll ever forget. I'm honored to have played a small role in that game, and I think it's something that the city and the team will carry with them forever. Vegas will have this team now that they created from the ground up, and just being a part of that night is something that I'll never forget.
Oh, I think you're absolutely right. And it's so difficult from that standpoint, too, because the hype was so exciting for a Vegas-born team. And the first game, T-Mobile Arena, I mean, it must have been such a difficult, okay, now we got to pivot. Now we got to do it this way. It's not like when 9/11, hit New York City and the Yankees had to go back and play, though an emotional decision to go back to play, a scary moment to go back and play in New York as well. But, I mean, the team had been playing for 100-plus years at that point. It was a little bit different to take this just unexplainable thing to happen to a city and then shove that into the excitement of the day. I think you guys did an incredible job, your entire team, and the turnaround. I can't even imagine, but that's what live sports is all about, because it's more than just the players, right? Like, we know the background of this because we work behind the scenes at these stadiums, right? We know how much goes into a game that's not just X's and O's of the players on the court, on the ice, or on the field. It's a totally different animal, the amount of people working. And, speaking of your work here in Las Vegas with sports teams, the Raiders, my friend, this is awesome.
Yeah, like I said earlier on, I'm a kid in a candy store. I'm blessed to work for the Vegas Golden Knights. Top Rank Boxing is based in Vegas. I'm actually in Arizona right now on a fight. This is not my house, so don't criticize those curtains behind me, everybody. I'm in a hotel in Tucson, Arizona with Top Rank Boxing, and I'll fly home Saturday morning and get ready for Monday Night Football with the Raiders. And I'm honestly just blown away by the opportunities that Las Vegas have presented. And to be able to work for these three incredible organizations it's really not work. It's just something special, and I'm honored and humbled every day to say that I get to do what I do.
Well, if you start a talent agency, count me in. I'm in as your first client because I know how heavily involved you are, especially with the nonprofit community. I mean, you even mentioned that you've helped now how many nonprofit organizations? 140? Did I get that right?
Yeah, I think we're at about 140 Mondays Dark events, somewhere around there. I have to go back and look. I remember when it was our 100th partner, and we raised $1 million, and we select 21 organizations a year. The board on Mondays Dark picks 21 charities a year, and so we do 210,000 in cash out the door every year in $10,000 increments. And I don't know, I lose track, but it's a cool circle of people to sort of have in your Rolodex when you have over 100 executives that work for nonprofits. Those are really cool people who have dedicated their lives to a certain cause, and that's a pretty cool circle of friends to have. I've gotten to know most of the partners that we've helped over the years, and they've become friends. And that was sort of a byproduct that I didn't expect from the Mondays Dark organization, where I'm like, hey, I'm meeting all these great people who work in nonprofit work, and they're dedicating their lives to these various charities. And that's a special person, when you've sort of gone down that path and you've committed to working for an organization. It's a pretty cool person to meet and learn about. And it's one of the things that we like at Mondays Dark is learning about all these new charities every week, every other week, and supporting them. So it's been a cool ride.
We're on with Mark Shunock, and he's all over the city of Las Vegas, all over. If you're at an event, you might be seeing him. And I have to apologize, Mark, because the last thing I want you to feel, you invited me and my co-host Amy out to the Monday Start Country edition, and of every Monday that I was available, I actually had the opportunity to host the play-by-play for the celebrity softball game for the Major League Baseball All-Star Weekend, and it was that night. Like, I was in Colorado, and I was like, I literally never leave the city. And now I have this gig to go to Colorado, All-Star game. I got to host it alongside my dad, which was the coolest experience of all time. And Mark's like, would love to have you guys. I'm like, no, are you kidding me?
You couldn't miss that one, man.
Yeah.
And your family is like iconic in sports, so you gotta go. And being able to be a part of that is such a thrilling night, and tip of the cap to you to be there for that. You can't miss those ones. Those are life memories that you'll have forever. And there are a handful of events like that pop up, and when we're lucky enough to be available to do them, you got to do them. So, and to be sitting beside your dad, I can only imagine how special that was to be a part of. So congrats on that. You were missed, but we knew where you were. All good.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, it was definitely a bucket list item to get to host with my dad. I mean, I did little spots, and I remember I was like 5 years old. They would bring me on, and I would read the stat of the day or whatever. Now to all the way sudden be an adult in this career of broadcast, and to be able to host with him and bring him along for the ride on a crazy stupid game like was the celebrity softball game.
It doesn't matter. What a trip. That's so much fun.
It was a really good time, and I really appreciate that. And Mark, you mentioned that there are some events that just they trump them all. There's events in your life that you get to do, and obviously the Raiders, the Knights, I'm going to leave those aside here. What was one of the most unexpected cool events you've had a chance to lead or be a part of? And I know I'm putting you on the spot. I'm going to leave Mondays Dark out of it too, but you get so many cool opportunities. Was it a 5K you hosted, a race, a softball, a charity event, or even a UFC fight or something like that? Like, what's an event you're like, wow, this was big?
I think and what's crazy is I'm trying to remember the teams that played in it, but not long after joining the Golden Knights, the National Hockey League brought me on to host all of their big events every year. So I host All-Star Weekend, the Winter Classic, the Stadium Series, and the Heritage Classic for the National Hockey League. And my first year with the NHL, I got to host the Winter Classic outdoor hockey game at Notre Dame Stadium. And I think to this day, that was probably the most exciting time for me because it was the opportunity to host a hockey game, but it was in Notre Dame. And, I'm a big fan of the movie Rudy, who isn't? And growing up where I grew up, in Canada, college sports is not what it is in the United States. And so, as a Canadian who lived on the border of Michigan growing up, we would, we migrate to Detroit or Minneapolis or some of these big cities that were close to the border, Chicago. And a lot of our college sports teams that we rooted for as Canadians were, pretty close to the border. And obviously, it wasn't hard to become a fan of Notre Dame. And walking into that stadium for the first time, and then your brain immediately goes to, oh my God, they shot this scene of the movie right here, and this is the tunnel where Rudy and the janitor had that big heart-to-heart moment. And I'm not there for a football game, I'm actually there for a hockey game, which was just unbelievable. And I'll never forget the opening hit, where I got on the microphone and I said, Notre Dame, who's ready for a hockey game? And this wave of noise just kept coming from the fans. And I think what the NHL does with their Stadium Series and the Winter Classic is something that's, as a hockey fan, so special. And to be a part of those big outdoor games, that's one I think to this day will stick with me for a long time. The fact that I was able to host an outdoor hockey game for the National Hockey League at Notre Dame Stadium.
That is so special, and that is so cool. And for you to be tapped from our Vegas Golden Knights, I mean,
Yeah.
it's like it's like one of our players making the All-Star game, in my opinion, because you're representing our team, you're representing the NHL, obviously, but you're also representing our team. So it's cool to see you out there and like being a part of it. And I commend you for that because we're getting eyes on Vegas. I mean, you even see visiting players, Mark, say that Vegas is one of the most fun places to play, one of the loudest places to play.
Yeah, I think what we do is, a testament to the entire entertainment team at the Golden Knights. And yeah, I have conversations with the players all the time, especially our players. I'm obviously friendly with our guys, and they're upfront and honest. They obviously love playing in Las Vegas. You're seeing players take less money to stay here. It's a wonderful place to live. It's a beautiful city. To everybody who doesn't live in Vegas, no, we don't live on the Strip. I don't live in the Venetian. I used to get that all the time with Rock of Ages. They're like, "Hey, do you live at the Venetian?" I'm like, "No, no, no." So yeah, I think it's a cool thing to represent Vegas, and the league took notice right away. It was season one where the executives from the National Hockey League came to Vegas and they saw what we were doing, and they're like, "Hey, let's get that kid." And that's just how it is. I think it's like that in any industry. When I was, strictly acting in New York, work begets work. You do a play, you do a musical, people come and see you, and then they want to put you in something else. And that's how everything's happened for me in sports. Top Rank Boxing came to a Golden Knights game, and that's how I got the job with Top Rank. And then obviously the Raiders are new to town, and that, I interviewed and met with them, and I'm excited for the first season with fans in Allegiant Stadium. We have the best football stadium in all the land, and we finally get to put fans in it. So it's going to be a trip, and I think that's going to be a special opportunity for everybody involved, from the players all the way up to the people working concessions. It's going to be a special place to be on Sunday afternoon to watch football, and we get to kick off the season with Monday night. So it's going to be special.
I really think it is. And do you ever get nervous before hosting an event? People ask me this all the time.
Yeah, yeah, we get nervous, but I think it just stems from just that the energy of knowing what's about to happen. It goes away pretty quickly, but it's the work is the preparation, right? Like, people think what they see in that moment just happens, and it doesn't. I'm already working on stuff for next week, and I'm at a fight tomorrow. I'm ring announcing 7 or 8 fights for Top Rank Boxing tomorrow night, but I'm already working on scripts or or preparation for an event for next week. So there's just this continual uh, preparation, and that's half the battle. When I see people that I admire and watch on TV all the time, you can see the work that they've put in. They're not just making things up, as you know. There's so much effort and preparation that goes into game day, or walking out on stage in a play, or a musical. There's so much preparation behind the scenes that people don't see. And now that I've been in this business almost 30 years, it's really special to watch those that I respect and look up to, because now I kind of get it, and I know how they got to where they are, and they're sitting in that chair for a reason, because they're just incredible at what they do, and they put the work in.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think that it's so funny. We'll get text messages from time to time of people saying, my friends always say I would be great on the radio. And I'm like, oh, well, okay, I get it. You're probably funny, entertaining, but there's a lot more that comes to it. I'm sure you maybe don't get it firsthand, but people saying, oh, I could do that. I could ring announce. I could do that. Yeah. But you can't let your adrenaline take you away. I get nervous just a little bit before every morning show. And I think that it's important because it keeps you on the edge. It keeps you thinking. If you walk in there, you're sitting back, I'm just around another chair and just hanging, you're not going to be on your top stuff that day. And that's not the way to operate. And I think your point of the lesson I learned, I don't even want to say the hard way, but I learned it, was there's always someone watching, always someone listening. To your point of, your job's going to get you this next job, the next gig. It's like you never know who's going to be in the stands, even if it's some crappy game, not even sold out with the Vegas Golden Knights. You could mail it in. You're tired. You're hungover. You got another event in the morning, whatever. No, because you never know who could be there and who could be watching you and who could be potentially getting you next gig. I think that's that actor's mindset of yours that's really, really good in your career, and a good lesson for anybody watching or listening.
Yeah, one of the things about theater performers is, once you're in these amazing shows, you're doing the same show every night, 8 shows a week, doubles on Saturday, doubles on Sunday. And people always ask, they're like, do you get tired of singing Hakuna Matata night after night after night? And I'm like, no. And it's for the reason you just said. Somebody is seeing The Lion King for the first time, and somebody is seeing The Lion King for the last time, and if you keep that mentality with you, regardless of what we do in entertainment, whether we're hosting an event or performing on stage in a concert or a show, that's something I carry with me everywhere I go and everything I do. So somebody is coming to a Golden Knights game for the first time, or a Raiders game for the first time, and there could be somebody in the stands seeing their last sporting event or their last play. And that's something that I carry with me. That was taught to me 20 years ago in New York, and I think that's how I keep everything fresh and exciting. And I don't dial things in. I just think it's unfair. I'm paid to do what I do, and I don't dial it in very often. And also too, I come at everything I do as a fan. I think of everything that I have the opportunity to do, and at the forefront of that is I'm a fan of these sports. I love going to boxing fights. They're so exciting to see live. If you haven't been to a boxing match live, I highly encourage it. It's incredible to see these two warriors walk into a ring and literally risk their lives to earn a paycheck. They're literally fighting for their lives. And then if you haven't seen a hockey game, it is the fastest sport on earth, and it will blow your mind. And so I come at all of these opportunities as a fan first, and then a host, or whatever my title may be, second. And I think that reads. I think that translates. I think that's why people are responsive to what I do, because they just see this crazy guy out there who's loving the atmosphere and the environment that he's in. And that's, I think, why I don't even think it's a gig or a job. It's just, I'm there screaming my lungs out just like everybody else, wanting our team or our guy to win. And I can't wait to get in Allegiant Stadium, man. It is going to be a trip representing Raider Nation, some of the craziest fans in all of the National Football League. So I'm going to experience it just like everybody else on Monday night. for the first time. It's going to be cool.
I have to commend you on something you said there. Is talking about being a fan. I've been to plenty of events. I've had a chance to host some, but I've seen a lot of people hosting. And the one thing my dad taught me when it came to this business is don't make it about you. It's not about you.
Yeah.
It's about the experience for the fans. And I think that is so important to remember. And I remind myself that every morning on the air. I remind myself that whether I'm doing a charity event or I'm doing a game or whatever it might be, it's for the fan. You can have some fun as yourself. Mark can have fun, Jeff can have fun, but you got to remember that we're here in service of your fellow fan. You know, and I think that's so special. Now, Mark, before I let you go, as an inner theater kid, as a performer, I grew up, I'm loving this stuff. For you, what is your favorite stage character you've ever played?
Oh, wow. I've been spoiled. Lonnie in Rock of Ages is just a riot to play, because I get to break the fourth wall and interact with the audience. I had a lot of great times at the Venetian doing Rock of Ages. I referenced The Lion King, being able to play Timon in The Lion King, Hakuna Matata, such a legendary song, to be able to sing that every night. But believe it or not, I think to this point in my career as an actor, I was fortunate to play Arnold Epstein in Biloxi Blues, Neil Simon's Biloxi Blues. And it was very much on par with sort of my sports career as a young kid. You're in this locker room with 20 guys getting ready to play hockey every week and every night. It was a great group of guys that were a part of that cast. We're all off to boot camp in Biloxi, Mississippi. And I played this young kid who just didn't want to be there. And anybody who knows Neil Simon's writing, it was just a dream gig to rip this character apart and spend 4 weeks. We did the play in Charleston, South Carolina. It's was one of my first professional jobs, got me into the Actors Equity Association. And I look back on those. I have some really fond memories of playing that kid. And I love acting. I love ripping the scripts apart and the process. And I think that's sort of what I've carried over now is working into sports. Is I love the preparation that goes into every fight, every hockey game, every football game, ripping scripts apart. My scripts have changed a little bit now. They're guys' names with stats. In boxing, it's introducing some fighters with some pretty interesting names. But yeah, I think to answer your question, Arnold Epstein, Biloxi Blues, one of the greatest roles I've ever had the chance to play. I'm a lot older now, but I carry those memories with me pretty close.
Wow. The Timon, that's a bucket list role for me right there.
Hakuna Matata.
Hakuna Matata, baby. One of my favorite roles, I have to say, Nicely Johnson in Guys and Dolls was one of my favorite roles to play, because I don't want to put you in my box, but I was always in the box of non-romantic comedic lead. Just I'm the funny guy, didn't get to really kiss anybody on the stage. I'm the comedic relief of that. But that was one of my favorite roles, and I just love talking theater with anybody. So if you ever feel like reminiscing, you can always text me and we can talk about the good old days. And Mark Shunock, I can't thank you enough for joining Do What You Love today, taking some time from a hotel where the Wi-Fi went down, but you still made it happen. You're a go-getter. Honestly, as a host myself, I look up to you, and I think you're one of the best that I've ever had a chance to talk to. So I'm glad to call you a friend, and I really appreciate it, brother.
No, I appreciate you, man, and I appreciate all the kind words, and I love the show.
Mark Shunock, everybody. Mark, thanks for joining the podcast.